thing you need to be really aware of is the avian flu. And I'm going to tell you a story about this. And you might hear disinformation saying it's not going to be a problem. Don't believe it.
This is a very unusual form of flu because it looks like it is a product of some gene splicing. The flu contains elements of bird flu, 2 forms of human flu, and various forms of swine flu. To them, it doesn't look like this is naturally occurring.
Well, the most disturbing is the avian flu. The avian flu was created with a bioengine using gene fragments of deceased miners in Alaska. They took these fragments and using a bioengine actually recreated the virus from nothing. They succeeded in doing this at the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. We know the names of the scientists involved because this virus, by the way, you should know the 1918 flu was created through viral pass-through technologies that were being developed under the vice president at the time of Theodore Roosevelt. So we've actually had bioweapons programs in operation for over a century in America. The virus originated in Fort Lupton, Kansas, beside a military base. And if you line up the DNA letters are a perfect match for the human WSN33 human strain of virus, which is the oldest strain in American databases, and the Iowa pig flu strain from the 1930s. The oldest strains, you can line up the DNA letters and show that the 1918 flu is a human-pig hybrid.
Improved public health has caused the world's infant mortality rate to decline by 60% over the last 40 years. In the same period, the world's average life expectancy has increased from 46 years in 1950s to 63 years today. The result of these positive measures is a world population that has risen during the same short period of time geometrically to almost 6 billion people and could easily exceed 8 billion by the year 2020.
February 1956. In the heart of New York, Operation Big City was underway. A Ford Mercury, specially adapted with a hidden exhaust pipe, pumped out bacteria onto the streets of Manhattan. Undercover agents entered the city's subway system, their cases equipped with tiny motors, which covertly dispersed the bacteria Bacillus globuli. 10 years later, the Army returned. Light bulbs filled with bacteria were dropped in front of trains and down ventilation shafts to test how far the bacteria would spread through the subway system. For years, these public experiments were kept secret from the citizens of New York. The Army faithfully filmed its own experiments.
So we're very close. You know, this has taken quite a bit of time. It's new technology. This is basically a chemical factory in the air. This is basically a chemical factory in the air. This is basically a chemical factory in the air. And we ought to be first place. It's the only safe place for us.
A chemical factory in the air. Well stated. Boeing holds a press conference today. We'll see the future for this program soon enough.
And when I spoke to their international board of their top doctors and scientists at HLI in Zurich, they gave me almost 8 inches of documentation, not only about the avian flu, but about the AIDS virus and about vaccines to create sterile populations in sub-Saharan Africa to get rid of 185 excess sub-Saharan Africans. The AIDS virus was created directly under the control of the World Health Organization and the globalists, and I received those documents. And I personally was recruited in 1974 to take a year off of medical school and do my PhD in virology with the CIA in Uganda to actually work on retroviruses and recombination to actually create the AIDS virus. So I turned it down. But I know firsthand, not secondhand about this, but I have further corroboration from my documents I got March 16th, 1997.
If the particles are inhaled, they will travel down the trachea into smaller and smaller airways. At this point, protein spikes on the surface of a virus may bind to other proteins on the cells which line the respiratory tract. The virus is then engulfed by the cell, which serves as a factory of salts for viral replication. The newly formed viruses bud off the surface of the cell and spread throughout the respiratory system. The infected tissues become swollen and inflamed, causing symptoms such as cough, sore throat, and a runny or stuffy nose. As the virus continues to spread into the bloodstream and throughout the body, further symptoms, including fever, headache, muscle ache, and extreme fatigue, develop. In the case of a virulent, highly pathogenic strain, infection with this virus is sometimes fatal.
The project is underway at the Sanger Institute in England, where earlier this year scientists broke the plague's genetic code. They have nearly 50 bacterial genome projects underway, comparing dangerous and more benign bacteria to better understand their life cycles.
The possible use of genetically engineered pathogens, it's a completely different situation. You cannot use antibiotics because in many cases they wouldn't work.
Cyclotronic resonance refers to the ability to resonate or spin small particles with a given resonance frequency. Military doctrine for non-lethal weapons in this area is as follows. Initially, enemy armies or populations can be exposed to, sprayed with, a very small amount of chemical or biological agent. The quantity of chemical or biological agent used may be so small as to be virtually undetectable. Following exposure, the enemy population may be targeted with microwave or radiofrequency radiation in the exact resonance frequency of the chemical or biological agent used. The toxic agent will begin to resonate or spin and will react with much greater speed or activity within the bodies of the target population, similar to the behavior of enzymes that make life possible. This greater reactivity may be millions of times greater than normal and would behave as if the person had been given a massive dose of chemical or biological agent, enough in fact to cause death. Cyclotronic resonance of chemical and biological agents allows entire armies or populations to be destroyed with only minute amounts of the agent in their bodies if they are attacked with non-lethal microwave weapons afterwards.
Don't believe what the television tells you. The world isn't overpopulated at all. In fact, let's look at it realistically with a simple comparison of population versus land mass, and we can do a rough estimate and formulate a quick hypothetical to demonstrate this very easily. There are approximately 6 billion people in the world, and there is 2.97 million square miles of land in the island continent of Australia. 2.97 million square miles breaks down to 1,900,800,000 acres, which then converts down to 7,603,200,000 quarter-acre blocks of land. So, we could hypothetically give every person in the world a quarter-acre block of land, and they would all fit into an area the size of Australia. Each would have enough land that they could all have gardens and grow a substantial supply of their own food. And we would still have 1,603,200,000 quarter-acre blocks, or an area roughly half the size of Queensland, left over, plus the entire rest of the world. Now just pause to let that sink into your brain for a second. All the people, that's every man, woman and child on Earth, would comfortably fit inside Australia. Each individual person could have a quarter-acre block of land, and we would still have half of Queensland and the entire rest of the planet left unoccupied. The world is not overpopulated at all. It is just very badly managed.